Okay, get ready, because I am about to introduce you to the ugliest, weirdest, most rule-breaking creature on the entire planet. And by the end of this video, you might actually want to be one. Meet the naked mole rat. It looks like a tiny wrinkled hot dog with teeth. It lives underground in complete darkness. It is basically blind. It smells terrible, and scientists are absolutely obsessed with it. Why? Because this little weirdo figured out how to cheat death, and it did it in ways that make every other mammal on Earth look like an amateur. Let us start with the basics so you understand just how insane this animal is. Most small mammals live fast and die young. A mouse, for example, is roughly the same size as a naked mole rat. A mouse lives about 2 to 3 years. That is it. 2 or 3 years and the party is over. You know how long a naked mole rat lives? 30 years. 30 years. A mouse-sized animal living 30 years is like a dog living 500 years. The math does not make sense. Scientists looked at those numbers and basically said, wait, what? Run those again. But the numbers were right. The naked mole rat broke the rulebook on mammal aging so completely that researchers had to go back and rewrite the rules entirely. Here is the first surprising thing that will make your brain short-circuit. Naked mole rats do not age the way you and I do. In almost every other animal, the older you get, the more likely you are to die. That sounds obvious, right? Of course, older things die more easily. That is just how life works. Scientists even have a fancy name for this. They call it the Gompertz law. It says that for most mammals, your chance of dying doubles roughly every few years as you get older. Naked mole rats ignore this law completely. A 30-year-old naked mole rat has basically the same chance of dying on any given day as a 10-year-old naked mole rat. Their risk of death does not go up as they get older. They just live and live and live at the same pace until one day, very suddenly, they are just gone. Scientists call this negligible senescence, which is a fancy way of saying they basically do not age. They are one of the only mammals on Earth that does this. A 30-year-old naked mole rat is physiologically almost identical to a young adult. Same heart, same lungs, same energy. Just wrinklier on the outside, which honestly is not saying much because they were already extremely wrinkly to begin with. Now here is the second fact, and this one is my personal favorite. Naked mole rats almost never get cancer. Think about that for a second. Cancer is one of the biggest killers of mammals on the planet. Humans get it. Dogs get it. Mice get it. Almost everything gets it. But naked mole rats, scientists have studied thousands of them in captivity over many decades. Documented cancer cases in naked mole rats can be counted on one hand. One hand, out of thousands of animals over decades of research. How do they do it? It comes down to something called hyaluronic acid. Naked mole rats make an extremely thick, gloopy version of this stuff between their cells, way thicker than what humans make. And this gloopy barrier acts like a security bouncer for their body. When cells start growing in a weird, uncontrolled way, which is basically what cancer is, this thick hyaluronic acid physically blocks them from clumping together and forming tumors. The cells try to misbehave and the goop just shuts it down. Researchers are studying this right now, trying to figure out if they can use this discovery to fight cancer in humans. So yes, the wrinkly hot dog with teeth might one day help save your life. Third surprising fact coming in hot. Naked mole rats can survive without oxygen for 18 minutes. Put a naked mole rat in a container with zero oxygen and it does not panic. It does not thrash around. It basically just chills. Its heart rate drops, its body slows down, and it switches its metabolism from burning sugar with oxygen, which is how you and I get energy, to burning fructose without oxygen. That is something your brain cells simply cannot do. When your brain loses oxygen for more than about 4 minutes, it starts dying. Permanently, neurons just start shutting off and they do not come back. Naked mole rat neurons. They hang out for 18 minutes with no oxygen, and then when oxygen returns, they fire right back up like nothing happened. This is why doctors and medical researchers are seriously excited about naked mole rats. People who have strokes, which happen when blood flow to part of the brain gets cut off, often have permanent brain damage because those neurons die so fast. If scientists can figure out how naked mole rats protect their neurons during low oxygen conditions, It could completely change how we treat strokes in humans. One ugly little underground animal could revolutionize brain medicine. That is wild. Now let us talk about how these animals actually live, because it is almost as weird as their biology. Naked mole rats are one of the only mammals on Earth that are eusocial. That is the same word we use for bees and ants. They live in huge colonies underground, sometimes with over 200 individuals, and the whole colony is run by one female. She is called the queen, and she is the only one allowed to have babies. Everyone else, all the workers and soldiers, they just work. They dig tunnels, they gather food, they protect the nest, and they never reproduce unless the queen dies. Here's a weird detail that scientists discovered not long ago. The queen actually gets taller when she becomes queen. Her spine literally lengthens. Her body physically changes to make room for all the babies she is going to carry. That transformation happens after she becomes queen. Her body basically reshapes itself for the job. That is something that happens in insects, but it is almost unheard of in mammals. And the soldiers in a naked mole rat colony are intensely brave. When a predator like a snake gets into the tunnels, the soldier mole rats rush toward it. They know they are likely to die. They do it anyway. They sacrifice themselves entirely for the survival of the colony. For animals we might assume are simple, mindless creatures. That kind of behavior requires an extraordinary level of biological programming. Now here is the fifth big surprising fact, and it might be the most incredible one. Female naked mole rats are born with all the eggs they will ever have, just like human females. But a human woman is born with about 1 to 2 million egg cells, and that number steadily declines from the moment she is born. By the time most women are in their 40s, that supply is nearly gone and reproduction ends. Naked mole rat queens do not do this. Researchers discovered that queens actually replenish their egg cells over time. They can keep regenerating new egg cells throughout their lives. This is something that was considered basically impossible in mammals for decades. Textbooks said it could not happen. The naked mole rat said, "Hold my hyaluronic acid," and did it anyway. So let us recap what this animal actually does. It lives 10 times longer than it should for its size. It barely ages. It almost never gets cancer. It can survive without oxygen for nearly 20 minutes. It lives like a bee colony with a queen. Its queen's body physically reshapes itself to become royalty. And it can regenerate eggs, all while looking like a tiny wrinkled hot dog. There is a scientist named Rochelle Boffenstein who has studied naked mole rats for over 30 years. She says that in all that time she has never seen one of her research animals die of old age in the way other mammals die of old age. They just keep going. Their bodies do not seem to get the message that they are supposed to deteriorate. What does all of this mean for us humans? Well, scientists are now using naked mole rat research to explore new treatments for cancer, stroke recovery, and even the general process of aging in humans. This little underground animal that nobody ever wanted to hold or photograph or celebrate is potentially one of the most medically important creatures ever studied, all because it refused to follow the rules. It did not ask for permission to live 30 years. It did not check whether its cancer resistance was scientifically plausible. It just did it. For millions of years, quietly, underground, in the dark, this funny-looking wrinkled creature has been outliving everything around it and holding secrets that could change human medicine forever. The ugliest animal in the room turned out to be the most extraordinary one. So here's my question for you today, and I genuinely want to know your answer. If scientists could use naked mole rat biology to give humans one of their superpowers, just one, would you want to never get cancer? Would you want to barely age? Or would you want your brain to survive without oxygen? Drop your answer in the comments right now and let us see which one wins.